Hello everybody, and you are very welcome to the Read Writing event in UCD Library, the James Joyce Library, as part of UCD cultural events in June 2022. I'm going to introduce the poets one by one, and you'll really we've a wonderful day planned for today. Some incredible writers, and coming from, I think we've managed to cover 4 different continents, and we have people who have access in their heads to all different languages, and you will have the joy of hearing all of that here today. I want to thank Ursula and Lucy for bringing me in and for putting up with all my crazy ideas. As the audience members, if you think you can come here and sit quietly and just listen, well, I've got another thing for you. We have a poetry wall here, and we are looking for active participation. So I'm going to be asking you to scribble things down and pin things up, and at the very end there will be an opportunity for any of you brave enough to come up here, stand in this place and read some of your work as well. So this is the poetry reading where you get to read too. So I will read a poem and then I will introduce our writers and we will get started. Thank you so much. So my first poem that I'm going to read you is A Lancaster Plays with Quantum Reality. And there's a few words you might need to know. One of them is pyar, and it means love, and so does ishq. So we have pyar and we have ishq, and lob means, lob pigeon is love business. So here we go. A Lancaster Plays with Quantum Reality. We are doing lob pigeon, lobbing our words back and forth. You ishq mine and I pyar yours. Back and forth we lob these loves. Each time they fly back and forth, they exist in me and you. I cannot hold all the words in my head, or even all of one word. Right now, a little piece of this exists inside your head. So our first reader is going to be Sri Sen. Sri Sen is currently based in Dublin. Her creative works have appeared in Poetry Ireland Review, Daedalus Press, Local Wonders Anthology, Honest Ulsterman and Bathmag, The Night Heron Barks and others. She's the winner of the UCD Maeve Binchy Travel Award 2020. She's the recipient of a Kilreelig Residency 2020 and an Agility Award 2021 by the Arts Council. Her debut poetry pamphlet, Cracked Asphalt, will be published by Fly on the Wall Press UK on, mark the date in your diary, 12th of August 2022. As a journalist, her articles have appeared in the Hindu Business Line, First Post, DNA, Times of India, and all kinds of other media platforms. We will follow that wonderful reader with Rafael Mendes. And Rafael is a writer and translator from Brazil. He's based in Dublin. He's currently completing an MPhil in comparative literature at Trinity College. His work has appeared in Writing Home, The New Irish Poets from Daedalus Press 2019, Bealtaine, Ciphers 91, Trinity Journal of Literary Translation, Icarus, and Litro magazine. He's a 2021 recipient of the Irish Writers' Centre course bursary and of the Mentor Member Programme. He's a 2022 Uplift Young Leaders of Colour in Literature initiative. And then we will follow that with 2 writers who are at the moment studying in UCD. Their names are Alina Hanusiak, and Alina comes from a small village in the south of Poland, where she spent most of her life writing, reading, playing accordion, and enjoying the nature and her family feels. Her musical background opened her ears to the music of everything. Right now, she seeks it in and between the lines of poetry. Alina has a BA and an MA in English Studies from the University of Wrocław, and you will hear her today. And the other poet reading with her will be Eva McKenna. And Eva is a final year student of a BA with creative writing in University College Dublin. She has had her poetry published in Kutub Minar Review in 2019 and 2022, and she has recently finished her creative dissertation on the Irish dialect in poetry. So put your hands together and welcome our poets.
Thank you, Fiona. That was wonderful. I am so happy to be here amongst everybody. I did my master's at UCD, so this is kind of like homecoming for me. I'm so glad to be here with the other poets, so thank you. I will read a couple of poems which have already been published and a few which will be published later on in the year. I shall begin with File Storche. A white stork struck with an African arrow, drawing blood from a rotting wound as it flies to its German home. I sit at the window with this new information. A passerby speaks Bengali on his phone. For a moment, I belong. Wonder who is on the other side. Is he talking to a lover? Or with his octogenarian Didima squinting through her cataract? I make fresh coffee from roasted Kenyan beans from O'Connell Market, of polite nods at safe distances versus probing questions from Porikaku, who sold instant coffee at the store in my old neighborhood. Back at the window, dusty feet on cracked tar, 497 miles towards home on a pastel Bengal road. Teeth stained with raw tobacco and melting gur, human chain of fractured spines, a class forgotten in a hurry. Porikaku stares at me unblinking, a dagger between muscle and bone. Contraption of the self. Hoarding jars, glass once filled, pickles, jam, mayonnaise, tahini, tapered buttons, squared shoulders, leftover crumbs of stickers, spice jars line kitchen cabinet, promising pungent heat thrice a day. Spooning out treasures from bottles I cleaned in warm water, dried under intermittent sun. Writing names on transparent bodies, making it easier to locate, use, damage. I have labeled myself over and again. Body crammed with ingredients deemed useful. As daughter, fear filled my chest. Friendship tasted of loneliness. Being a lover, uncapped shame. Marriage added legitimacy. In time, there will be cracks, invisible to naked eye, but worry nonetheless. I'll cover it up with a nightly beauty regime of ointment from little glass bottles I'll wash dry intimately, trace its body, fingers whispering to the gentle contours of bedroom jars. Whiff of rose or maybe jasmine. Flowers that remind you to smell good after a day of nursing. My baby's feeding bottle has printed butterflies and a label cherubic in capital letters she'll read one day. Also, cursive scribbles in fading black. I'm sorry, Jan, comma Koro. Brugmansia. Souls weep along cracked lines, cracked tunes on digital loop, trapped in wolf woods, poisoned flower of the moon, flower extinct in the wild, in my kitchen garden, alive. Status quo. When I hug my Dida, 8 decades gnawing at her bones, sandalwood and coconut oil smearing a life on knees, praying, cooking for one husband, 2 sons, 3 daughters, 3 sons-in-laws, 2 daughters-in-law, 7 grandchildren. I cling to her sari, delicate white hair rolled in a bun on frail shoulders, papyrus skin crumbling. I, her favorite, Found thee the irrational, funny, superstitious. Don't cut your nails after dark. Spirits reside in banyan trees. Gods sleep, eat, and are sentimental. Witches have curved feet. No haircuts on Tuesdays. Menstruation is an unkind word. Ma's hand, rough on my face, soft round balls of rice crumble. I only see the cigarette burns marking her wrist. Close, thee that holds me, youngest daughter of her youngest daughter. Taking deep breaths of her miracle scent, head shaking, forbids talk of divorce, gospel placed at the shrine of the goddess whose name only high caste men may invoke. We women with cupped palms, rejection coded in genetic memory, witches have curved feet. Lessons learned in kitchen classrooms, sieve rice for leftover gravel. One tiny piece may sink a submarine. Aya, my home will have no roses or tulips wilting in a hailstorm. Rather, a harsh garden of wildflowers and ferns with thick, hairy stems of African origin. Unyearned by poets, incomparable to fragile beauty, commonplace, hidden in plain sight between limestone cracks, peering through gravel, reminiscent of sunlight patterns on sunflower walls, conspiring with snails, bees, and human feet to thrive, crushed even. Thank you so much for listening today, and I hope you have a wonderful time here. Thank you.
Just as Raphael is coming up, to remind you all that as you're listening to the readings, write down any words that you find interesting, because I'm going to ask you to do something at the end, okay? So this isn't a passive listening, okay? Listen carefully. Any words you like, write them down, and I'll come back to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rafael Mendes. I'd like to thank Fiona for the invitation and you all for being here today. The poems I'm going to read today, they were inspired by three Black poets, Avon Jordan, Harriet Milan, and Nick Makoha. And something that I learned from reading them is that poetry often takes forms and information that are widely available in the world and reshape them or try to see them from a different perspective. So I'm going to read a few poems here today that are part of the Abridged Migrant Dictionary. So, arrive, verb, 1. Reach a place, especially at the end of a journey. As in, Ulysses arrived at the airport, walked up the terminal as gust struck his dark-skinned face. He had prayed for 16 hours, asking the gods to make his motor cortex understand that in this land, push meant push, while in his land, push meant pull, but came to nothing, as his hand forced the double doors that never gave in. 2. Of an event to happen or stars to exist. When the time arrived, after the moon had rotated more than he could bother to count, Ulysses packed a piece of luggage his father had paid in 10 installments because a truck driver can only spare so much of his salary. 3. To reach a place or decision. To arrive at that continent, Ulysses had worked shifts of 10 hours from Monday to Saturday. On Sundays, he would sell slices of carrot cake whose lemon glaze made him relieve his late mother's bedsheets flapping above blue and violet geraniums. 4. Active success. To wire 100 euros to his father in a day with good conversion rate would mean his father's health insurance payment, would mean Ulysses had arrived. Foreign, now. 1. Being outside one's country, as in foreigners traveling to Europe account for 10% of GDP. 2. Belonging to another area other than the one being considered. As in, where is your foreign body really from? When did your foreign body move here? Why did your foreign body move here? How did your foreign body get here? Can I touch your foreign curly hair? 3. Alien character. As in, the proud nationalist association debate on foreign bodies taking up their jobs, women, and culture. They debate on the best tactics to keep foreigners out of their neighborhood, out of their cities, out of their countries, and draft a declaration demanding abandon mosques, abandon asylum permissions for non-Europeans. At the end of the Proud Nationalist Association's meeting, they order burritos at Romina's, dumplings at Lee's, and kebabs at Mohammed's. Home, noun, 1. Place of residence of a person or a family. As in, her home had been built by her grandfather, who had built her aunts and uncle's house too. Her home roof had as many holes as a chain fence, so during summer, when clouds sparked and burst above the village, she recorded the rhythm rising from the collision of raindrops against buckets and plastic pots that once stored butter, composing the anthem of poverty. When the terrorists arrived, her home was the first to burn down. When she left the hideout, soot was falling from the sky, and she thought that God was coughing her life. 2. The social unit formed by a family living together. As in, she cooked for the 13 people living in the temporary accommodation her family had moved to. There was jollof rice, fufu, and pounded yam. As they ate, she listened to Romina saying that Mexican rice was made with the same long grain rice and some of the spices used to make jollof. She mentally wrote down Zalika's jerk chicken recipe, which reminded her of the peri-peri chicken she had eaten in a Mozambican restaurant. Later, as she washed dishes, she thought this might be a home. Language. Noun. 1. A system of communication consisting of words and sounds. As in, the language she babbles on the phone with her landlord who wants to kick her out of her 700-euro shoebox room with 3 days' notice. 2. A systematic means of communication ideas and feelings. As in, she sobs at the police station, trying to make them understand she has been robbed. No, not in the streets. No, not in public transport. Yes, house. No, not her house. Yes, her deposit. Her landlord had taken half of her deposit, arguing that the mold proliferating on the windowless room, like bronchiolis in an X-ray, was her fault. And when her broadband stopped working, and by consequence her online translation, and she began to scream and cry and punch the floor, the police told her she better watch out her language. 3. The vocabulary used in a specific field, as in the public lawyer tells her that in court she must use a certain language so the judge will like her because the judge had voted for a far-right candidate whose promise included the ban on people like her to come to Europe. 4. The way someone speaks or writes, as in she records her language classes so she can listen back as she works 7 hours and 30 minutes in a factory making sandwiches and wraps where the only language she uses is yes and no. She learned the difference between crisps and fries and to say mayo to say more native. But she does not have the language to tell her mother that she was called cheap Latina whore by a taxi driver. Migrant. Noun. 1. A person or persons who take residence in a foreign country, as in migrants pass their umbrellas from hand to hand as they queue in the wee hours of the day, awaiting the immigration office to open its untapped doors and distribute 5x5 paper cutouts as if they were communion bread, holy squares of paper that maybe and only maybe will grant them passage to the reception of an earthly paradise to be questioned by sleepy human saints whose thoughts are lost in a Costa del Sol beach they returned from the day before. Migrants gather late in a clandestine park to outline a bonfire in which they roast red peppers like in Iraq, okra like in Barbados, corn like in Peru, in which they heat up cocoa tea like in St. Lucia, canton like in Brazil, around which they clap, dance, and sob to celebrate the migrant brother who gained the red passport each and all of them dream of. Now I'm gonna read my last poem. It's a poem about love. It's Pride Month, so for the queer folks out there. It takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds for sunlight to reach the earth. During the hiatus between leaving the globe of fire, dodging debris of dead stars, and passing through the ozone shield, sky lanterns, ignited by flames the color of pomegranate seeds, are released. An indigenous folk, with her head coated in coconut oil, daydreams about the ocean's saline flavor she has never savored. Cranes, dancing a one-legged tango, sway above the city's mist of tobacco, fried bacon, and lavender. I open the bedroom's curtains, sunlight alights its destination. The curves of your crisp lips, the tenderness of your belly, our child's hand grasping your milk nipples. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you for the opportunity to read these poems. My name is Alina, and I have 2 poems for you. The first one is dedicated to my friend, and here it is. Clematis vines. Like entwined vines of clematis pink, with invisible beginning and no visible end, we create a green wall, which protects us both. In each loop, a different talk, a walk through the park, a taste of coffee after dark, its lingering smell tickling the heavy summer day, and that's something. And the other one, I transport. On the corner of Talbot Street, with white beard reaching your knees, you sat with long, mismatched socks, one white, one gold, watching people pass with fedora gently resting on your brows. Our eyes met, and you transported me to a new realm, no longer on the corner of Talbot Street. We were flying from a trapeze, through a hoop landing near a clown juggling 3 red and blue balls as the crowd cheered us on. A tiger appeared as you pulled me backstage to prepare for our act. Walk the line high above the ground. Unlike me, I agree. And with umbrella in hand, I start to walk on air towards the safety of your extended hand. One wrong step, and I fall to the ground, into the tiger's open mouth. Through his warm insides, I tumble back onto the Talbot Street. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eva, and I'm going to be reading some poetry from my dissertation. The first one is called Lambing. It was too early. I knew that at least. While the rains had come to mark the spring, the cold had yet to retreat to the stream, laying low until the fierce wind brought it out next winter. It was too early. When we got up to the field, the bleeding showed us the way, following the way towards the pain. Too early. You nod your agreement. Little legs follow big legs up the slope of mountain, pushing hard. It's too early. And no matter when you got there, it's too late. Just too early for him. I'll hold her. You grab the legs when you feel them. Her, fear, paled, wind-whipped cheeks that turned pink, now white, don't cry. Go on now, she's in distress. Tiny hands took tiny hoofs in hand, amniotic sac intact, a silky warmth of nutrients and blood clots clinging to dry skin. Pull. They're twins. She pushes hard, and with a thud, they're gone. The mother is shooed away and stays back for good measure, too afraid of us to get too close, bleating for babies. They're so small. I think they're breathing. A shake of his head tells no lies. They're not. They didn't have a chance. Small, wrapped in mother, and dead. I carry them down, becoming heavier in my arms like they were growing in size. Their limp bodies, heads hanging at an angle across bony knees, and blood seeps into white wool jumper. 3 little kids, 2 dead in the other's arms. No chance, just too early. A response to John Montague's like dolmens around my childhood, the old people. There's a place that knows blood like the birds know the wind, where grass knows skin as it roots itself with dirt. This earth houses our bones. The smell of ice and salt chased by mussels and clams rolling up the strand before the end of harvesting. High atop the cliffs above where our people have watched across Atlantic seas, breathing to glimpse a brother across waters, half forgotten already. Old family in dissolving homes washed by ancient oceans, dried and stored in memoriam eternal. There is ground that knows us here. Generations of bones lie beneath, rotting caskets full of woeful tears and cold hands on chalky limestone, bone and dirt that share mine old blood. This old town has known us all, brought us forward and buried us with the rest. So when the final breath leaves our farmer's lung, we all return to the same dirt, to be forgotten like the rest. Dreamland. There is nothing I won't sell you here. Body, soul, mind, or heart, take your pick. I can sell you a dream of wild nights in Soho or evenings under blankets of rain, cold and warm together. Follow me. Let me be your fantasy, leather or lace. Show me your nightmares. Take me away from this place. All for the right price. Hit, slap, kick, bite. It won't hurt me. Sell me a dream tonight. Blondes or brunettes, fluorescent stars on looking, flashing ahead their caution, praying on concrete knees. Make me an offer, sell me a dream. Just for tonight, on stage all, welcome to Dreamland. Thank you.
So I hope you've all been making notes. Thank you for such wonderful, wonderful readings from Srisen and from Rafael Mendez and Alina and Eva. Thank you all so, so much. You were fantastic. So what I'd like you to do with the prompt is you should have at least 10 words. Does everybody have at least 10 words written down? Okay. I'm going to call out some words that came to me and just in case you feel like writing them down. And then while you're listening to the music, which will be absolutely amazing in its own right, you might have an idea for a poem. You might see how those words prompt something in you. And then write your poem on any of the coloured pieces of paper you find lying around, with the pens lying around, and then you can pin them up over here. So we're really looking forward to that. So the words I have are gur, feet, belong, foreigner, proud, recipe, generations of bone, kick, bite, umbrella, and extended. So I hope you get some inspiration there. And I will hand you over to Jane Willow. And a little bit about Jane. Jane is a wonderful musician. She is a Dublin-based Dutch-turned-Irish musician. She's performed at Vicar Street, Whelan's, Temple Bar, Tradfest, Body and Soul, and the Electric Picnic. She's opened for Glenn Hansard, The Unthanks, Lisa Hannigan, Paddy Casey, Andy Irvine, Keela, David Kitt, Aoife Scott, and Mark Geary. Jane's debut album, Burn So Bright, November 2021, takes influences from Leonard Cohen, Nick Drake, and Richard Hawley. For Women's Day 2021, the RTE Concert Orchestra released an orchestral version of her song, Let There Be Light, which received radio play, wide radio play. And you can find out more about her on janewillow.com. So I welcome Jane Willow. Thank you.
Thank you. I've really been enjoying the poets so far. It's been really amazing, especially Raphael, about being an immigrant, foreigner, and all that. I can relate to it, you know. This is a song called In Your House There by the Sea, and it's my homage to my hero, Leonard Cohen. I might just tune real quick. It seems to be a bit out of tune. But yeah, I had a lover in Dunleary, but he wasn't a very good lover. So then I thought, well, I'm going to write a song about a lover, and I'm going to use Leonard Cohen as my inspiration, so that it won't be a totally miserable song. So. Sing to me, my love, from your dark room, in your house there by the sea. I'll still hear your song in this city, where the cars trail on the street. You can make this town look so kind now, look so gentle, look so sweet. Sing to me, my love, from your dark room, in your house there by the sea. I feel so estranged from these people, and they're talking on the street. I've become a fool to my old love, oh, to my family and to me. And you can make this world look so kind now, oh, look so gentle, oh, look so sweet. Sing to me, my love, from your dark room, in your house there by the sea. Lay me in your bed, close these curtains. We know there's nothing there to see. All I want to hear is your breathing and that bird song by the sea. You can make a girl look so kind now, look so gentle, oh, look so sweet. So sing to me, my love, from your dark room, in your house there by the sea. In your house there by the sea. Oh, in your house there by the sea.
So thank you so much, Jane. Oh my gosh, what amazing readings. So I'm going to start this next section with a little poem from me, and then I'll introduce the poets, and we'll continue. So the little poem from me is a very, very little poem. It is called Old Love Poems Make Me Cry. When I read old love poems, 40, 50 years of solid rock, and children, fossils embedded in that love, I feel like sand shifting beneath my daughter's feet. And the first poet we'll have up will be Chris Fitzpatrick, who's here today. A little bit about Chris. He's a HSE medical lead for COVID-19 vaccinations and a clinical professor in UCD. He is a former master of the Coombe Hospital. He's the Royal College of Physicians in Ireland clinical lead for its applied drama collaboration with the Abbey Theatre. He was a co-writer of the literary drama And Spring Shall Come, commissioned by the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland in commemoration of Easter 1916 and World War I. His book is here, but you can also buy it from him. And it's called Poetic License in a Time of Corona, and it's his first collection of poetry. And the next reader is Nithi Kassa, who has just popped in. So yeah, Nithi Kassa is an Ireland-based poet of Congolese origin. Her poems have been published in Poetry Ireland Review, Trumpet Magazine, SAH Journal, Flair, A New Ulster, Daedalus Press's Writing Home, The New Irish Poets, and the commemorative anthology from the Ireland Chair of Poetry, Hold Open the Door by UCD Press. She received the Poetry Ireland Commission's 2020 with the support of an Arts Council of Ireland Commission Award, and she was shortlisted for the Ivan Boland Emerging Poet Award 2021. Her debut collection of poetry was published by Dira Press in 2022, and you'll have to tell people more about that, Nithi. So that's fabulous. And then the next two people who'll be reading are currently students in UCD, Kelly Michaels and Darcy Duggan. Kelly is currently pursuing a PhD at UCD. Her poems have appeared in Poetry Ireland Review, Banshee Lit, Tampa Review, Poet Lore, Third Coast, Best New Poets, Greensboro Review, New Ohio Review, among others. Her poetry has received the Rachel Weston Poetry Prize, the Spoon River Poetry Review Editor's Prize, the Robert Watson Literary Prize, and an Academy of American Poets Prize. She participated in the National Mentorship Programme by Words Ireland and Dublin City Libraries, and she's the author of two pamphlets, Mother and Child with Flowers, 2012, and Disquiet, 2015. And our other poet, Darcy Duggan, is a poet from Northern Ireland. She has completed her English with Creative Writing undergraduate degree at UCD, just completed. Her poetry has most recently been published in The Wax Lemon, The Stony Thursday Book, and Paper Lanterns, and she enjoys exploring themes of place, displacement, comfort, and discomfort, and is currently working on her first full collection. So I think you're going to enjoy all the readings, and I will step aside. Thank you.
So thanks very much, Fiona. Thanks to UC, and thanks for everyone for coming along. I'm the geriatric debutante, and it's fantastic to be here with so many young poets. I'm totally out of my depth. But I did actually spend the happiest 3 years of my life in this library when I studied English in UCD, and that's before I did medicine. I was delighted to meet Lucy Collins coming in here, who's the wife of my former English tutor, Professor Andrew Carpenter. So that was just a piece of serendipity. So I'm going to read from a collection that covers the period of February 2020 to February 2022. I'm going to try and compress that period of time into 10 minutes. So this is a poem I wrote having sent an email to a colleague of mine who was working in Cork University Hospital as an infectious disease consultant at the start of COVID. I sent her an email to say, what's it like in Cork? And I wrote this poem based on what you emailed me back. First day back, great to see you muffled through masks. On this front line, all our troops and casualties. My patient could be me. No time to dwell, just stick to the rules, protect your patient and yourself. I don and doff the PPE, a trainee shows me she has my back. No hierarchy, work as one, together but socially apart. No visitors, just patients and us. We quickly acclimatise. Trusted wisdoms no longer apply. We learn fast, share everything. Isolation brings fear in ICU and at home. We are with you. Between lungs on chest x-rays and CT scans, I see a person's heart. Surreal comes nowhere near. I struggle to find words. Everywhere I look, I see determination. We will get through this. As I write this, airplanes are landing with PPE for us. So there were different types of masks. There were masks that we wore, and then there were masks that some eminent poets wore in the past. So this is Yeats's mask and my mask. Yeats's mask, my mask. Burnished gold, polypropylene, I'm told. Emerald eyes, Chinese. Poetic, hygienic. Symbolical, practical. Mystical, disposable. Think persona, think corona. Think no, think yes. So at times of turmoil, they say we go looking for poets and for those who sing songs and for artists. But sometimes the artists and the poets come looking for us. This morning, Anna Akhmatova read my mind. She knows if I'm happy or sad, picks a poem for me. Kind, generous, far from dead, she glides through Parisian salons in my head. Modigliani drew her over and over, sometimes stoned, sometimes sober. There's just something about Anna Akhmatova, sitting at a table, lying on a sofa, spice of life, sparkling tonic, making dissonance harmonic. So there were things that we missed badly during COVID. And listening to the last person who sang here, I missed the magic and intimacy of live performances, particularly in small venues. And this was one of the greatest concerts I ever saw. On the night Amy Winehouse came from London to sing the blues in Dingle, she bared her soul and touched my heart in the small church of St. James on the tip of the peninsula, and afterwards on the street and in the hotel and at the bar. We only said goodbye with words. I died 100 times. When Amy sang the blues, she touched my heart. At the edge of the world, we were never 2 meters apart. But then there were those that let us down during COVID, and nobody let me down more than this person. Lionel Richie keeps emailing me, and yes, I have to pinch myself to make sure I'm not imagining it. I'm not. I also must be sure it's not a scam. It's not. Lionel's photo is on the email, so the email is from him. The word hello is written under his picture, a coded message from hello, is it me you're looking for? Although Diana Ross emails me with updates of our rescheduled shows, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate the trouble she goes to, Lionel's emails mean the most. Lionel has a big smile in his photo, which makes a change from the emails I get from the seriously glum people who email me a lot. Lionel encourages me to keep the faith because he's coming to St. Anne's Park in June 2022. In the past, Lionel has emailed me to apologise over June 2020 and June 2021. Lionel sounds really upset that COVID has ruined everything. If Samuel Beckett were here, he'd write, waiting for Lionel Richie. So this was the enemy. No brain, just a bit of RNA, smarter than we think. Sizes us up, picks us off in ones and twos and droves, shows no mercy, knows it's Nietzsche. But I suppose you could use poems, and sometimes you could even magically use your dad to make the enemy into something else. I Google images of the virus for a PowerPoint presentation. Copy and paste green spiked shells, click save. On the kitchen table, my dad spreads out newspapers, cuts the green spiked shells with a bread knife, and with awl and string makes conkers for us. I examine each in turn, pick the biggest and shiniest, smash 5 in school next day and not a mark on it. My dad calls it a real beauty. Then there was escapism, just to escape out of the pandemic. And what better thing to do than to switch on the telly and watch Strictly is back. Jive, rumba, tango, waltz, salsa, American smooth. In my armchair, I have the lightest step. I know where my head and my hips are at all times. I skip the news, wouldn't you, for all this happiness? But then there were the deaths, and those of you will remember the deaths that occurred in the nursing homes in the first wave. This is a poem I wrote after Wilfred Owen. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the hearse we put her in, and in the zipped up body bag see her worn out face, her medal of Mary fixed with a safety pin, if you could hear at every jolt along the way the final moans from her congested lungs, the obscenities of her final day, the pleas for mercy on her innocent tongue, my friend, you could not say we did our best. Sacrifice to let others live is a sorry story, an age-old lie. Dulce et decorum est, pro patria mori. My brother died in 2021 from cancer, and he had quite an isolated experience because of COVID in terms of who could visit him and who could not. And this poem was based on a conversation I had with him shortly before he died. Of all the books that you have read, which did you like the most, I ask, sitting 2 meters from the bed in which my brother lies, almost a ghost. The remains of the day, he says, his hoist nearby, attentive as a butler, eavesdrops. Slowly we unwind the clock, school pullovers I handed down to him, school books I'd scribbled on. I see him on a beach with a bucket and spade, my mother knitting in the shade. Life is a book from cover to cover. At the remains of the day, we read back over. This poem was written about the death of somebody I greatly admired, and also on a concert I played in about 200 meters from where we are standing at the present time, back in 1976. When I hear that Paddy Maloney of the Chieftains had died, I remembered our college band, Dada meets punk meets trad, split up after one anarchic set in Theatre L of the Arts Block. For a while afterwards, I used to dream that Paddy had come on stage and jammed with us. I digitally remaster him and me on the Uilleann Pipes, Final Encore, Sex Pistols, Ramones, jigs, hornpipes, slow airs. So I mentioned escapism, and sometimes you escaped and then you are dragged back, as happened last Christmas. Just when I was thinking of Mariah Carey and What I Want for Christmas, wham, it's going to be last Christmas, this Christmas, all over again. Now, not everything bad that happened over the past 2 years was due to the virus. Afghanistan, a woman begs a soldier to take her baby. 3 men cling to a plane, fall from the sky. 200,000 deaths, $2 trillion, not a virus, us. Then it kind of ended. A son burst in the door. It's over, he shouts, waving his phone. A few hours later, a surgeon removes a cancer from my face. Postponed before, I'm relieved to get it done. A nurse says meatloaf has died. Like a bat out of hell, I hum in my head. In the shopping centre, it feels like we just qualified for the World Cup. Olé, olé, olé. However, even as we opened up, there were still reasons why women and men out late at night walking past each other might want to socially distance. And this was a poem I wrote after a very tragic death that occurred on the 12th of January 2022. I'm walking home in the semi-darkness listening to Joni Mitchell on my headphones. The footpath is wide. I keep to one side of it. 2 women jogging towards me cross to the other side. There's no one else around. I keep my head down, eyes fixed on the floating moon, upside down streetlights in the canal. So we started in a time of Corona. I started writing in a time of Corona, and I ended up writing in a time of war. Standing in a queue of visitors outside a prison in the snow during the time of Stalin's terror, a woman with blue lips asked Anna Makhtova if she could describe this, and the poet said she could, and it took 30 years to publish this poem. And I'd just like to finally end up with a quotation that opens my collection from Julian of Norwich, 14th century English mystic who lived in a sealed up room next to a convent, wrote the first book written by a woman in English, Revelations of Divine Love, as the Black Death raged outside. And as a student of Old and Middle English in this university between 74 and 77, I'd like to dedicate this poem to my old professor of English literature, Professor Alan Bliss. all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. Thank you.